Okay, in this last section on monopoly, we're going to be talking about the pros and cons of market power and how those influence us. First pro that monopolies would put out there is that research and development funds are more available to monopolies. Absolutely true. They have a long-term economic profit. They're some of the most profitable firms out there. However, the con on that is they are the least motivated to do research and development. Because of that monopoly, there's no incentive to do the research. Okay? The second argument they put forth is entrepreneurial incentive. That bigger profits would more motivate people to attempt this. But people can be very profitable in market structures other than monopoly. So this one is also shot down. Economies of scale. This is where we talk about an idea called a natural monopoly. This is a monopoly that has economies of scale across the entire production process, which basically means the bigger they get, the more efficient they actually become. This is absolutely true. They, being only one, could actually produce things cheaper. The con part of this is that a natural monopoly does not have an incentive to pass that on to the customer. Therefore, most of the natural monopolies we find out there are regulated. Things like your Dominion Hope, your Allegheny Power, they're not just left on their own. They have to be accountable to the government. They have to ask for those increases. They can't just give them. So this one is a valid argument. However, we've got to really monitor them to make sure that those cost savings are passed on. The final one here they give you is a contestable market. A contestable market is one in which the potential for competition exists if they would abuse their power. And that may or may not be true. If they truly have one of those barriers, like a patent, does potential competition exist? No, it doesn't. There's no way to overcome that barrier. But there are monopolies out there that actually exist and have no barriers. In those instances, we have contestable markets. It means there's potential for competition. One of those we might look at is a tin can manufacturer. A very simple industry. Easy to get into, easy to get out of, and it has a virtual monopoly there. Reason being that it has large economies of scale. As long as that tin can manufacturer sells its products at a reasonably cheap price, people aren't likely to get into the market. However, if they raise their price, do you think Campbell's could make a tin can? Of course they could. It's very easy. So that's a contestable market. And it is not based solely on the structure, but on the behavior of the company involved. Now I want to turn your attention to finish up this chapter to the characteristics of monopoly. One of the big parts of all this is being able to identify them. Know what's similar, what's different between the market structures. These lists are extremely important. In a monopoly, you have one firm that produces the entire amount. No close substitutes for that. High barriers to entry. They do have market power. They're still going to produce where MR equals MC. They face downward sloping demand curves. Independent decision making is something that they share with perfect competition. They're independent in their decision making because they don't care about what others are doing. They only have to focus on themselves. In this instance, it's because they're the only one. In perfect competition, it's because their size is so insignificant that they only worry about themselves. Their marginal revenue is always less than their price. They may employ price discrimination. And one last one is that they do experience a long-term economic profit. Because there is no price squeeze on them. You don't see that constantly shifting of the supply curve out. They're able to hold it in. They will experience those profits. As we move through all of these chapters, pay attention to these. This is going to be a huge part of the rest of this class, is what is similar, what's different, what makes them unique. Pay attention to these characteristics. Thank you very much.